Latest news on the Browns. The news that just broke is shocking everyone for a reason no one expected, and it all points to the same thing. No one knows for sure what this Browns team will look like when September rolls around. Shedeur Sanders just got a message from the coaching staff that no one expected to hear so soon. Deshaun Watson did something in today's practice that's going to make this quarterback competition much more interesting than anyone imagined. And Myles Garrett. He didn't show up for voluntary practices, and now Albert Breer has just named the teams that want him, and what he revealed will surprise everyone. If you're a Browns fan, click the like button right now. Let's start with Sanders, because what the coaching staff just said about him could turn this whole competition upside down. Alright, so the Browns are deep into OTAs right now, and the question everybody keeps asking is the same one. Who's actually going to be the starter when week 1 rolls around? You've got Deshaun Watson, you've got Shedeur Sanders, you've got Dillon Gabriel hoping someone trades for him, and Taylen Green just existing as this freakish athletic wildcard in the background. But at the center of it all, it's Watson versus Sanders. That's the real fight. Now, Wednesday was OTA number 5, and this time, it wasn't head coach Todd Monken talking to the media. It was offensive coordinator Travis Switzer, the guy who came over from Baltimore with Monken, where he was the run game coordinator. And Switzer, he had something real to say about Shedeur Sanders. Here's the thing about Sanders. He stepped in as the starter for the final 7 games of 2025, while Watson was recovering from his second Achilles surgery. Second one. The man has had a brutal run in Cleveland, and that left the door wide open for the rookie. Sanders went out there and played, showed flashes, kept himself relevant, and now, just a few weeks into working with the new offensive staff, the coordinator is already noticing a difference. His progress has been impressive, Switzer said flat out. His ability to move through progressions, his feet are getting more urgent, and he's ready to throw more consistently. We can continue to grow there, but his progress has been impressive. That's not nothing. That's an offensive coordinator in his first weeks on the job, going out of his way to highlight a second-year quarterback who was a 5th-round pick. People forget that. Sanders fell to the 5th round. All that hype coming out of Colorado, all that name recognition, and he went 5th round. The Browns took a shot, and right now, it looks like it might actually pay off. But and this is important, Switzer isn't saying Sanders has solved everything. The knock on him going back to his college days has always been the same. He gets antsy in the pocket. He breaks plays too early, tries to do too much with his legs when he should be standing in and trusting his arm. His NFL scouting report before the draft literally said he creates pressure and sacks on himself with undisciplined pocket drops. That's a polite way of saying he sometimes runs away from a problem that wasn't even there yet. That's the thing Sanders has to clean up, because the talent is real. Anyone who watched him play behind that disaster of an offensive line last season knows the kid can make plays. He just has to learn when not to make a play. Stand in the pocket, go through your reads, let the offense work. Switzer is seeing improvement in exactly that area, and that's why the quote matters. Switzer also made sure to mention that both quarterbacks are progressing well. He's not going to throw Watson under the bus, but the fact that he specifically called out Sanders by name and used the word impressive twice, that tells you something. This competition is real, it's open, and Sanders is not going away quietly. And look, what we just talked about with Sanders is real, but what happened at that same practice? Watson came out and did something that made the entire conversation shift. This one just came out and it hits different. Here's what went down. Okay, so while Sanders is getting praised by the coordinator, Deshaun Watson decided Wednesday was the day to remind everybody that he is still very much a starting quarterback in this league, because the numbers he put up at OTA 5, those are not nothing, even for a practice in shorts and helmets. According to ESPN Cleveland's QB tracker, Watson went 11 for 16 with 6 touchdowns and 1 interception. Sanders, for comparison, was 8 for 14 with 1 touchdown and 1 pick. Now look, OTA stats don't tell the whole story. There's no live tackling, no real defensive pressure. The offense is still being installed. It's not the same as a game, but the direction matters, and Watson's direction right now is pointing up. Let's put this in context, because Watson's situation in Cleveland has been genuinely one of the strangest, most frustrating stories in recent NFL history. The Browns traded for him in 2022 and handed him a fully guaranteed $230 million contract, the biggest fully guaranteed deal in NFL history at the time. And in return, he played 19 games, 19 injuries, off-field legal issues, inconsistency. The whole tenure has been a mess from day one. Then last season, he went down with his second Achilles tear and missed the entire year. At that point, a lot of people wrote him off completely. It felt like the Watson era in Cleveland was basically over before it ever really started. But here he is, OTAs, moving around, looking athletic. Todd Monken, who is not exactly a hype man by nature, straight up said Watson's athleticism is one of his superpowers. It's a weapon for him, Monken said. It's one of his superpowers, his athleticism. That's your head coach in public talking about a guy who has basically been a ghost for 2 years. That's meaningful. And yes, Watson is also walking into this as the most experienced quarterback in that building by a mile. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL before everything fell apart. He knows what a starting offense looks like at full speed. He's been in big games, made big throws, won in this league. That experience matters when you're installing a new system with a new coaching staff. The reality though, Watson is in the final year of that massive contract. This is it for him. If he can't stay healthy, can't perform, can't lead this team, it is almost certain that nobody hands him another deal. Not in Cleveland, probably not anywhere. The pressure on him this season is enormous. Every practice rep, every preseason snap, every decision matters more now than it ever has. What Wednesday showed is that Watson still has it physically. The arm, the legs, the instincts. Whether his body holds up through a full season is the only question that matters. But right now, he's practicing, he's sharp, and he's making a real push to be QB1 when the season kicks off. The competition is genuinely on, and Watson just made a statement. Now, while all of that QB drama is playing out at practice, there's a completely separate fire burning in Cleveland. And this one, it has nothing to do with the quarterback room. Albert Breer just dropped names, big ones. Myles Garrett did not show up for OTAs, and while that alone isn't unusual, plenty of veterans skip voluntary workouts. The context around it is impossible to ignore right now, because the trade rumors around Garrett have been getting louder every single week, and now Albert Breer just went on 92.3 The Fan and named actual teams. The Eagles, the Cowboys, those are the names Breer threw out as legitimate suitors, and his logic makes sense. If the Browns are rebuilding and Garrett is the best non-quarterback in the NFL, why hold on to him while you're still figuring out if Shedeur Sanders or Deshaun Watson is your guy? You could get a massive return right now. Wait 2 years and you get way less. Eagles insider Jimmy Kempski backed it up too, noting that Howie Roseman checks in on Garrett every single year. Every year. That's not a rumor, that's a standing call. Here's the catch though, the Browns keep saying they're not trading him. NFL Network's Mike Garafolo said flat out that Cleveland promised it's not on the table. But, and this is the part that actually matters, in March, Garrett and the Browns restructured his contract in a way that makes a post-June 1st trade significantly easier to pull off. You don't restructure a deal like that for no reason. Garrett also hasn't met with head coach Todd Monken yet. The man set the NFL single-season sack record with 23 last year. He is 29 years old and in his prime. And the Browns are rebuilding. You do the math. Look, Watson looked sharp today, Sanders is improving fast, and Myles Garrett might be walking out the door before training camp even opens. This franchise is one decision away from going in 3 completely different directions at once. So who do you trust to be the face of this team right now? Drop it in the comments. And subscribe, because this offseason is nowhere near done.